LeBron in the front court against Teletovic. LeBron high left side against Kevin Garnett. 5 in the shot clock. Garnett leaves him wide open, and LeBron says, "Thank you. I'll hit the long jump shot." Miami back up by 19.
That's just tremendous isolation. LeBron freezing Garnett, getting him on his heels and elevating from 17 feet. Nothing but net.
Well, I'll tell you, this game for Miami, all about balance.
It is tip-off. Lots to look at. Both the Van Gundys will get quoted and talked about today. Plus, Mark Jackson out in Golden State. Dave Fizdale is your coaching profile and film study on Tony Parker. And the most amazing promotion I've ever heard about. It's all coming up on tip-off. Pow, 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 pow. By the way, for those of you that are long-timers, this shirt is a classic. This is Locked On Sports, Sports Radio 570. That's probably about 1993. I don't know what the shirt says on the back. A world run by ho-hos. Those are people who see sports with their heart over their head. We were going to call them heart over reason, then they became a whore. So we decided that wasn't really good. Heart over mind wasn't going to work very well either back then. So we went with ho-hos, heart over head. Hope you're well. Great dinner last night with our crew. Special tip of the hat to Austin Christensen and Jake Rocco and Danny Franks, Travis Rust, Jake Hatch, and sorry that Stacey Worster and Sam Hancock couldn't make it, but we had a wonderful staff on our broadcast this year. Took them to dinner last night. We did a little P.F. Chang's, had a good time, enjoyed ourselves. So thanks to all of them. Thanks for you for tuning in as we roll. First draft workout. I'll be heading down there right after this today, and then I assume we'll have probably a quieting of workouts until after the combine, and then going through. But this is the essence of Dennis Lindsey. Dennis Lindsey wants to see every player he possibly can, every data point he possibly can get, research everything, meet everybody, have that moment so that when the Malcolm Thomas or the Eric Murphy or someone like that comes around, he knows what he's looking for. The best example probably is if we look at the Spurs model, is it's the Gary Neal. You know, Gary Neal goes undrafted. I think he might have had some legal problems coming out of Towson. He goes to Europe. The Spurs know who he is. They sign him, and promptly the Spurs end up with a fabulous player for 5 years for them and find a way to fit. And that, I think, is the goal here, is all of this work and effort for that singular player. I'm sure the next step, if anybody would like to buy a D-League team, is that Dennis would love to have a D-League team affiliated with the organization who runs the same system as the head coach. And frankly, maybe that's the next step. Maybe we've got to go get ourselves the head coach, figure out what system we're running, and then go get that D-League coach to do that and run that system. I don't, if we're going to do D-League, the way to make it work is really Provo or Ogden or Logan. St. George is almost too far. If you're going to really make it work, the way, from everything I've heard from people, to make the D-League work, or frankly Salt Lake City, is that you need to have it so that your top players that are at the D-League can still practice with your big league club, and that they get that time and that experience, but they're still practicing and exposed and interacting with your big league club. Just sending them up to Boise is not as productive as, hey, they have a game tonight, but they practice during the day with our guys at the Zion Spank Center. Part of me wonders, it's the budget, talking to people that run D-League teams, it's about $1 million a year of expense to run a D-League team. The problem is buying it. You got to, now they have franchise rights, you got to buy it. It's about $1 million a year. And if your draft pick becomes ready to play in the playoffs because of it, that's a well-spent $1 million in your player development, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I don't know if we'd had that D-League team here in, let's say you just, for the sake of development, you create a D-League team. They play at Energy Solutions Arena, and on front ends of games they play at 2:00, and it's general admission. I'm making this up, $5, and everybody can just come in and sit where they want. And then for those fans who can't afford a Jazz ticket, they can just go to that. This last year, I'm not sure we get the $1 million value out of it. Speaking of $5 tickets and get your value out of it, this is the craziest thing I have ever heard. The Jazz Pay the Pick is the promotion they're calling. Your season ticket price is determined by the draft pick the Jazz receive in the NBA draft lottery held May 20th. So, Upper Bowl season ticket could be as low as $44 for the entire season. The Jazz received it. So, for example, if the Jazz get the number 1 pick, the price is $1 per game. If we get the second pick, it's $2 per game, so $88 for season tickets. Third tick, it's $3. I can't do the math anymore. I'm not smart enough. Fourth, we get 4. So there's a 10% chance we're going to win the lottery. You would get season tickets for $44. Limit is 4 per household. There's only 500 of these available. It's an incredible promotion. You get right of first refusal on playoff seats. If we make playoffs, I think you probably have to pay full $4 by then. Could you imagine if you got seats for $44 and we turned around and made the playoffs? So all right, so let's say that the most likely pick we're ending up with is the 5th pick at 37.3%. Then you are getting season tickets for $5 a seat. It's an incredible promotion. You're going to every game for $220. Right now, you want to call 801-355-DUNK. In fact, this is a podcast, so hit pause right now. Tell them you were listening to Locked On Jazz podcast. 801-355-3865. Stop, Niall. Stop it. Call someone right now if you're on the bot. You can always hit pause on this thing. There's no need. Tyson, call. You can always rehear this again. Whoever's of the people that are listening live right now, go right now. Call 801-355-DUNK, which is 801-355-3865. 801-355-3865. Call right now. You got to get in on this. I mean, if nothing else, you give it to us as somebody as a present. It's incredible promotion by the Jazz. They'll be giving away 500 seats based on the price of the pick. The worst you can do is $7 a seat. And there's only a 1% chance of that happening. All right. That's an incredible deal. All right. Welcome back to all of you who left, hit pause, and rejoined our podcast. Congratulations if you got in on that. 801-355-DUNK. Tell them Locked On Jazz sent you. All right. Mark Jackson out in Golden State. It's a very interesting story. Joe Lacob is the new owner there. He's very hands-on. He just simply didn't like the way that, frankly, Mark Jackson managed staff and was around people and interacted. It didn't have to do with basketball. Joe Lacob is a very, very active, involved owner. And this gets into be that great question of what kind of owner you want. Rick Bucher and Bill Simmons in the BS Pod report got deep into this. And it's interesting. Every time I hear these stories, I kind of admire how Larry did things, being as actively involved as he did without derailing anyone along the way. I think he's maybe the only one. I also kind of admire the way that Greg and Steve are doing this, is let other people do their job correctly and let them do what they're doing and get hired. I mean, Dennis is, simply not that I think encumbered by anything with the Millers. In fact, I think the exact opposite is that they're kind of open. Go do what you need to do to win, and it's fairly impressive the way that that's taking place by the Jazz. And hey, if I was an owner, let's all be honest. I'm not criticizing. It's just the way things are. If I was an owner, I don't think I would be like Greg Miller and Steve Miller. If I was an owner, I think I'd be sitting in on every draft workout, being in every meeting. If I pay $500 million for something, I'm getting involved, right? Like, I want to know what's going on. I hopefully would be smart enough to let them make the decisions, but I'm going to want to I think this is cool. I'm going to want to know be in every meeting, be involved in everything. I love this stuff. Why if I bought a team for $500 million, would I go sit on the outside and not be involved? The Millers have never. I think one of the interesting thing will be in this coaching search is how the Millers are involved. Are the Millers interested in a big name? Do they kind of go to Dennis and say, I think we'd rather get a big name that kind of, are they wowed by that? That doesn't seem to be who they are. Do they let Dennis just pick the guy who Dennis thinks is going to be the best long-term solution that's got a non-wow factor on it? That just is the steady right in-house promotion or out-of-house promotion? Whatever it might be. I don't know how they'll be on that. That's a new aspect of this, but I think we've probably seen from who the Millers are and how they've done things, the way that they let people do their jobs. That's the signature fabulousness of really, frankly, of Greg's leadership and of Steve's leadership and Gail's leadership is we hire you, do your job, work at it, and I think there's some great productivity. If you've not listened to Kevin Durant, you should. He's fabulous. He's a great guy. Obviously, with my ties to Seattle, it's hard to root for the Thunder, but Kevin Durant's impossible to root against. He's amazing, and he's a great ambassador to the league. He deserved the MVP this year. I'm not sure I think he's the best player in the game, but he deserved the MVP, and he held himself yesterday in truly one of the great manners we've seen out of a professional athlete, frankly, out of anyone. And if you have not watched that, please take the time. See if you can get the whole version. The snippets are great. If you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you watch the snippets. But if you get the whole thing, you get the feel of who he is a little bit more. Spurs were brilliant last night, and the Heat. Those are the two best teams in the NBA right now. When they're right, there's no one better, and it would be cool if they match up. I do feel like the second round's going to be a dud. I think it could be really dud if Washington wins tonight. Washington wins tonight. Indiana, I don't even know if they'll board the plane to get to Washington. They're so broken. I think Portland's been where they're going to go. They're excited about what they've accomplished. I think they'll get blasted again, and then I wouldn't be surprised if San Antonio doesn't sweep that series. The Oklahoma City Clippers series, I would suspect, gets interesting, and that's kind of our one that gets interesting in this series. Though I expect Brooklyn to give Miami more of a fight than they did last night. The name Steve Kerr is floating around the Utah Jazz. This does not surprise anyone who's been paying attention. It's doing your job. It's, hey, Kerr, you haven't made a decision. We have an opening too. And if you go back, and I didn't get a chance today. It's actually one of the things I was trying to do. I'm going to have to go back and try to find this. Steve Kerr did a podcast with Bill Simmons many months back, in which he was talking about coaching, and it caught me at the time. It was inappropriate for me to talk about at the time because we had a head coach. But it was as though he was outlining in this podcast the Utah Jazz job as the perfect job to take if he got an opening. To the point which he said, I'd even rather be on the West Coast. Now, the Warriors' job is better. They have a better set of teams. You have to decide what you think of this owner. They have a better set of players. But if somebody goes back and finds the old Bill Simmons, Steve Kerr podcast and here's what I'm hearing, wants to send me what time it is, that would save me a bunch of work, and I would love that. But Kerr is being mentioned. Of course, Dennis is going to reach out to him. Frankly, it's not hard. You call his agent. You say, we're interested as well. We'd like to talk. You better make sure this is where Dennis's due diligence is the brilliance in this, though. You better not get too far down this road with Steve Kerr and then realize he's not the guy you want. He's never coached a game. He's really smart. He's been a GM. I think he's perfect. I think it's perfect that he his match, the fact that he's been in the front office, would understand how things are done and how to manage a team and all of those things. But he just strikes you in anything he ever does. He's a great basketball mind. I would be stunned if he's not a fabulous head coach. Same way if you were around Jeff, you kind of knew he'd be a really, really good head coach. I would suspect that he'll be a good head coach. So, but he's never been one. So you're taking a big leap. That does not, it's interesting. That player straight to head coaching doesn't seem to be a problem. Assistant, never been a head coach, actually doesn't always seem to work, which is weird. That track, and actually I'll profile somebody who fits that track today, doesn't seem to be that good. Jeff Van Gundy did a podcast with Zach Lowe, the Low Post podcast. It's really good. The best. It's really good. And actually, it's interesting if you watch it. The film study we did yesterday, they actually talk about those two plays a great deal of our Clippers film study. So it was interesting that they're talking about that. The other one I would jump on and mention to you, I thought the best part, he talked about the best way to make your teammates better, and then think about our Jazz players of whether they can do this. And they were talking about Indiana at this time. And, if you really listen closely to Jeff Van Gundy when he talks about things, he doesn't want to specifically criticize someone, but he'll give you the details you need. And he said, they were talking about Indiana's offense and what's wrong with it. He said, there are 3 ways you can help your team and your teammates. First, you can pass the ball where it's supposed to be delivered and on time. Okay? So how many of our guys, think to yourself, are capable of passing the ball where it's supposed to be delivered and on time? 1, you can screen. You can set a screen. Will help your teammates. How many of our guys set screens? And you can space the floor. Go with this figure. How many? Those are the 3 things you do to help your teammate. You pass the ball where it's delivered on time. You screen and you space. PSSS. PSS. Psst. Pass, on time and delivered. Screen, space. Pause. Pose. POSS. On time. Okay? Interesting analysis there from Jeff Van Gundy. The other one he talked about was very interesting in this podcast, was about, and Zach did a nice job with this, was about talking specifically about the play we did yesterday on our film study, how it's easy to see that, hey, we got to change what we're doing. And he says, you're actually better, as a coach, you're not going to add something new in the place. You better have system A that you use. And this is how you defend it. And you better just to give a maximum effort at that before you make the next step, which is indicating that you are going to change what you're doing. And the third thing he said I thought was of interest. Oh, shoot, I just forgot what it was. I spaced. There's too much stuff going on. What was it? Anyway, he was I can't remember. So Jeff that was a really good podcast in those regards, talking about those. There's a bunch of pieces. I'm actually going to go re-listen and take some more notes. The other one I thought was worth is the other day, Stan Van Gundy was on the Dan Patrick Show, and let me see if I can find this for you. I thought he was describing what type of jobs would be a good job to take. And let me see if I'll screen share it so you can just look at their video, just because it gives you something, and we will play it.
Jobs a little bit differently, I think, than even most coaches out there. The roster really is not of much concern to me. I think jobs, probably not just coaching jobs, but that's all I know, but probably jobs in the industry, I think it all comes down to who you're working for and who you're working with. And if you go in somewhere and you're on the same page, you have similar core values, similar philosophy to your front office, to your bosses, then I think that is a really good job, regardless of the roster. You could go in somewhere that has a great roster, but where you're going to be at odds with your front office because you don't agree with the way they do things, that to me is a bad job. So I would say, wherever somebody goes that they feel more aligned, do you feel more aligned with Phil Jackson or do you feel more aligned with Mitch Kupchak and the Buss family? That would determine to me which is a better job.
That's a pretty interesting comment. I think if someone made the comment to me that the best coach available right now is Stan Van Gundy, or let's rephrase, the best resume available is Stan Van Gundy, I think that would be hard to fight that. I think if you guys went and Tyson's in with purple and blue, he's listening. If you guys actually did a little bracket, take the 8 coaches and put them on a bracket, and which one has the best qualifications to be the head coach, I think Van Gundy should win that. Stan should. And then you couple the fact that Dennis and Jeff Van Gundy work together. Anyone who's ever worked with Dennis wants to work with him again. anyone who has ever been around Dennis, I can say this for myself, you want to go to the wall for him and contribute. You want to be a part of what's going on to make everyone better, because that's how he is. He's working so hard. You want to be a part of it. I mean, I'd do anything for Dennis. I think he's got a chance to lead you wherever you're going to go, and you'd rather not be a bystander. You'd rather be a part of it. And that's, I think, the message that Jeff would send Stan. I don't know if that's the money matches. I don't know if his personality matches. He can be a little eccentric, but his resume is as good as anyone out there at this point. It's interesting that none of these coaching jobs seem to be moving very quickly right now. I almost wonder if Sam Hinkie did something last year in Philadelphia that everyone was like, wait a sec, maybe that's the way to do it. Don't have any more cooks in the kitchen for the draft and do this afterwards. We'll see how things move. The Lakers are starting down the road of Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski and all the big names. By the way, I don't think Coach K I think the Lakers are a bad job with their team, so I think that's why Coach K may not take it. But I'm not sure that Coach K is totally out of the woods with the NBA. He's been coaching the National. He's done everything we do. If he's ever going to go, he's got to go. Like, if he's ever going to coach an NBA team and find out what it's like, it's now. So I think there's a chance. And I've heard from numerous people that the college coaches were outraged, were jealous of what Brad Stevens got, and that he has been thought of as this brilliant mind that he got in that realm. All right, let me introduce you. Let me make sure I've hit my notes. Yes. All right, let me introduce you to another coaching candidate, Dave Fizdale. He interviewed for Philly last year. He's a 39-year-old assistant for the Miami Heat. He's out of Los Angeles, California. He played at the University of San Diego under former UCLA great Brad Holland. He started his coaching career on the collegiate level played San Diego, not San Diego State, University of San Diego. I think I said that right, USD. He started his coaching career there, then went to Fresno for a few years. I actually didn't think about it. He might have been on Steve Cleveland's staff in Fresno before becoming a Warrior assistant for an Atlanta Hawks assistant from 04-08, Warrior assistant for a year, then the Hawks assistant under Mike Woodson for 04 to 08, working underneath as they built that thing up, started on their bad year, and then moved their way up. And has since been the right-hand man starting in the video for Eric Spoelstra and working closely with Spoelstra. He has never been a head coach other than Summer League for the Miami Heat, but he obviously has been exposed to a very successful Miami Heat program with a very good head coach in Eric Spoelstra. His name is Dave Fizdale. If, in fact, we go and interview 20 guys, I would suspect he could very well be one of them. All right, let's go to film study today. And where is my film study? There we go. All right, let's go to film study. I want to just dig into how I thought Tony Parker opened the night last night. I'm going to go to the 10:50 mark. We're going to run about 4 straight plays here that are how Tony Parker opened the night last night. And I think, to me, this is, you saw Chris Paul the night before. This, to me, is the veteran point guard aspect of basketball. And what I mean by this is Parker looks at Portland, understands how Portland plays. Portland plays the pick and roll where they drop the big man. Robin Lopez is going to cover the paint, and Parker comes with a game plan. I think Chris Paul watched the way Oklahoma City played, realized they were going to clog things on Blake with bigger guys. Particularly after Blake was able to manhandle a smaller Warrior team. And in turn, Chris Paul came into that game and said, okay, I'm going to be ultra aggressive today and do what I can. I think we saw the same thing with Tony Parker. Looking at a 7-game series, a veteran's been through it, like, okay, I have got to torch this defense early in this series and make them adjust what they do. And let's watch Parker. And then the second thing I would watch is everyone wants to talk about pace of play and fast breaking. The two things that most people in the league blow when they talk about this. One is the fast break has to be controlled, and 2, the fast break has to be taught. Too many coaches say, run, with no scheming of where are we spacing, what are we doing, what are we running, how are we getting stuff. The Spurs are beautiful at this. And I want you to watch, when we watch this, how they're into an early set, picking early pick and rolls. They did this in our playoff series against us. And then it lets Parker go to work. And Portland, who does not offensive rebound and gets back defensively, they're able to expose. So here they are. Parker almost always up the left side of the floor. Into the early action, quick drag screen from Splitter. Parker just steps back and hits. I mean, it's a very basic play, but Parker has come into this game early, decided he's going to be aggressive, and we'll watch it. We'll freeze it here. But look, here's the quick thing. He gets the quick drag screen right here from Splitter. 20 on the shot clock. They're only 4 seconds to play. Their way, their big play is that Aldridge is going to drop back. Parker turns the corner to try to attack it. Aldridge is going to stay back. He gets the easy 8-foot jumper. He nails it. So that was, they call it 11-foot jumper. That was very easy, very basic. Oh, cool. This is going to just stay in for you here. I love this. That's nice. All right, so here's another one.
Splitter.
Early into the offense, gets the pick coming from a different way from Duncan. This time coming down the left side. There's 18 on the shot clock if you watch it. And in the big circle that says play is where Robin Lopez is dropping down. And so Parker works his dribble and says, I'm going to fire over. He misses it, but again, it's the same concept. He came with a specific game plan. They're getting this early pick on Lillard, who's not great at getting through picks, and the big drops down, giving the mid-range jumper. This is how you kind of have to play them. There's nothing wrong with playing this way, but Parker, just with how astute he is, knows how he's going to play this. The next quick possession, if I remember correctly here, is a green jumper, but you can kind of still see the same thing. This is Leonard leading the break, so this is a little different. We'll let this play through. Here's the same pick from Duncan. Lopez drops back, so Green tries to pull into it. Not nearly as effective, but it's the same concept of, all right, this is what you're going to give us. We're going to play it. Here comes Parker on the next two. Early in the game, again, establishing. Oh, we got an ad. So we'll let the 15-second advil run. But what you should see, the two things again are, one, that Parker clearly comes with a game plan, and two, that how quickly the Spurs get into their offense. This is playing with pace. This is playing with an understanding of what you're trying to do, more so than anything else. Here's a steal. Parker immediately has it, left side of the floor. Splitter Duncan goes to the post. This is all coordinated. This is coaching at the highest level here. They have gotten the fast break, but they didn't get a fast break. But Green is spotted at the corner. Leonard is here for this area. Duncan goes to the post, and Splitter is now the trailing guy. If they'd flipped it around and Splitter gotten down first, then Duncan would trail into an early pick with 18 on the shot clock. This is not as good a pick, but Parker's able to step through all the way, early action for an easy layup on Lillard. And finally, in the last one on our film study today, is Parker's 6-point, puts him up 10-2, and this game's almost frankly over at this point. But here it is.
Motivation.
Off a make, they quickly push it up. They do it a little differently this time. They get into some early action, but now Parker's on that side of the floor. He gets the pick from Splitter. Again, 16 on the shot clock. They're already into the second side of the floor already. The floor is spaced. Actually, there's one more I want to show you after this. And Parker gets into a wide open jump shot right there. I want to show you one other if I can. I think Parker, this might be, I think Parker misses this shot. But I mean, Parker really comes out aggressively shooting because there's a little twist the Spurs put into their offense that you can only see from this funny camera angle right here. I hope we see if they switch to, if we get
move in a left hand and a deuce.
If we get this, they went to a funny camera angle, and you can see, here it is. This is it. So Parker comes up the right side this time, and again, it's the same concept. Here's the pick from Duncan at 16 on the clock. Parker gets wide open, sets into, wide open 15-footer, and he takes it. This is the shot Portland's willing to let them take, but the Spurs are kind of saying, fine, we're going to adjust you out of it. But here's the little trick that's so cool in this. Watch as we flip to this camera angle. Watch Robin Lopez right here. He's the one who's got to guard this pick, right? Watch that someone chips him along the way. Lopez is right here on Duncan. Coming across, Green just chips Lopez, making him go under that pick, which gives Parker an extra 2 feet on this jump shot. This is the subtlety to a great offense in the NBA. I'm going to show it to you again. I think this is just, I don't know, maybe I'm overplaying this, but I think this is really what is a great offensive team. When you do something like this where you get, so the pick and roll on the right side starts with Leonard, or Leonard gets the pass, and then it's, of course, not going to run here. Leonard crossing the middle of the lane Green, crossing the middle of the lane, bumps Lopez, forcing him to go under that pick. It makes a huge difference in how much room suddenly Tony Parker has, but it's also, instead of just a basic right side pick and roll. So watch over here as Green comes across the lane and just bumps into Lopez right there. That means that Lopez is now 3 steps below where he would have been otherwise. That's the subtlety of a great offense. And that is film study. That is the tip-off. Talk to you tomorrow. I forgot about questions again. Oh, well.